All right, all right. I'm Charlie Burris. That is Zach Reagan, and it is not Monday. And it's not even Saturday, halftime of a Tennessee football game or post game for a Tennessee football game. It is Thursday, and me and Zach just kind of had some free time over lunch, and we decided to, in reaction to the news that just came out about Jaylen McCollough. Really, it's not even necessarily like huge breaking news. It's really kind of an update on the Jaylen McCollough situation. We just decided, hey, let's get on here and talk about it. We got a second, so let's just do it. And so that's what we're gonna do, is just kind of give our quick thoughts on that situation. Will McCollough be playing? And we're gonna go through the article that Trey Wallace dropped on Outkick and talk about it all. So that's just sort of what this is going to be. I'll start off like a regular podcast. What's up, Zach? How you doing, man?
It feels like it's been quite some time since we've been on here. What, like less than 24 hours since we talked to Ron Slay?
Yeah, that's true. That was yesterday, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're doing this a lot lately, but it's okay. I mean, to be honest, I like talking more than I like writing. So, there you go. Mission accomplished all the way around. So here's the situation. Jaylen McCollough, obviously, I think most Tennessee fans know, arrested for assault and charged with a felony. And the situation was weird from the jump. We all knew that. Basically, trying to think the quickest way to run this down. The victim in this situation, according to the Knox County Police, was drunk, goes out to his car in the middle of the day. This was 3:30 in the afternoon. Goes out to his car to get something, and in a drunken stupor goes to the wrong apartment. It happens to be Jaylen McCollough's apartment. We've now found out from this article also Warren Burrell is an occupant of that apartment, apparently. And this drunk person goes into the apartment mistakenly. Something ensues, and Jaylen McCollough punches this guy. There's pictures in this new article from Trey. Knocked this kid's teeth out, bloodied him up pretty good. And that's what we knew before. Now we have this update. And it's felt from that point forward, it felt like Tennessee in that whole situation, like they were just going like, let's let this info get out here. Let's see what the facts are of the case, and we'll go from there. That has since happened. A few weeks have passed. McCollough has not played since then. Hypo, before the last game against UT Martin, essentially said he's been cleared at a school level. So that was from what we can surmise, that was a student conduct body that said he's good to go. And then now, with this update from Trey Wallace this week, he's been cleared by an independent review board. That's kind of open for interpretation to some extent, but this means he's essentially been cleared twice, by a student conduct board and by this independent review board. I'll just read this for the first part of this. Is Trey Wallace, Outkick.com. He's done some really nice reporting on this, kind of getting the inside scoop on it. Says, the attorney for Tennessee starting defensive back Jaylen McCollough has entered new evidence regarding the felony aggravated assault charge that sheds new light on a case that has kept McCollough sidelined for the past 2 games. Due to new evidence submitted, McCollough has now been cleared to play by an independent review board at Tennessee. We don't know who's on that. This is me interjecting. We don't know who's on that board and what it really is. At least Trey doesn't outline that here. And then he goes on to say, this is Trey again, head coach Josh Hypo in the UT Athletics Department will make the ultimate decision on when McCollough will play again for the Volunteers. After weeks of back and forth with Knoxville Police Department and District Attorney's Office on Wednesday evening, Attorney Chloe Akers filed 2 motions that tell the side of McCollough and witnesses regarding the October 9th incident. And that is where it goes from there into McCullough's side of the story now being, so I said before, the side of the kid that got punched is, I went in, I immediately apologized, backed out. They followed me out and punched me, and I went flying down a flight of stairs. That was sort of his version of events. Now, this motion from McCullough's attorney says it didn't quite go like that. Apparently, the details are This person, Zion Spencer, came into the apartment, did not leave, and McCollough was under the impression that they were being burgled, kind of, essentially. Someone was breaking into the apartment, was his interpretation of the situation. And then the person refused to leave, where the guy says he immediately left without question. McCollough says he refused to leave, and that's when the violence happened. So where does that leave us, where now Student Conduct Board, Independent Review Board have cleared him to play? Is he playing this week, Zach? How do you interpret this? What do you think?
Well, I mean, I think there's a lot of confusion right now because Trey Wallace put this report out. Like you said, Trey's done an excellent job reporting this and going it and getting it himself. And it's not like being fed to him. He's going and searching this stuff out and getting the details here. He's been cleared twice by places associated with Tennessee, but Josh Hypo today would not commit, said there's been no change in his status when he spoke to the media after Trey's report had come out.
And let's listen to exactly what he said. I have the clip here. So this is exactly what Hypo said today in his press conference talking about McCollough.
Josh, is there any change in Jaylen McCollough's status for Saturday?
No, you guys have heard me say earlier that he's been cleared on the campus side of it. Whoever looks at that has decided that based on the evidence that they cleared him. He's been with us here the last week, and so we'll see.
So we'll see.
Yeah, and to me, and I think this is the way a lot of people are interpreting this, and when there's legal stuff involved, there's a lot of speculation and that kind of stuff that goes on. But it seems like Tennessee's having to wait for the actual legal process itself to play out because he was charged with a felony. And that charge is still pending. So Tennessee doesn't want to put him on the field having that felony charge pending against him, even though Tennessee believes he's innocent. They've cleared him. And I think they've thought that all along. Like they've had the whole story this whole time, obviously. And Josh Hypo was pretty upfront when this first happened that McCollough was not suspended from the team, which was a pretty big statement from Tennessee. Typically when stuff has happened in the past, he's away from the team right now. He's been dismissed. I mean, they're usually pretty straightforward with the discipline. The fact that Hypo said early on he was not suspended from the team pretty much had me feeling pretty good about McCollough eventually returning to the team, just depending on how the timeline played out. So it really does feel like, Tennessee knows he's innocent. They want him to play. They're letting him practice. They're letting him be around the team. But until this charge gets dropped, they're just not going to let him play. Does it get dropped before Saturday's game? That's only in 2 days. You got today and tomorrow for something to happen. That seems probably unlikely, but who knows how this could play out. I don't know if it would require the actual court date happening, which is sometime in November, as I understand it, or maybe if they put this stuff out there, this article comes out, does the other person drop the charge? Because I'm not sure if he pressed charges or if the DA is the one that brought the charges forward. I'm not really sure how all that happened. So those are the only options, really, right? I mean, that's how I read it.
I am no attorney. Full disclosure here, when we get into any legal talk, my theory is this. This motion from attorney is attempting to move the hearing up to November 1st from November 18th. And I think, again, my theory from a non-attorney, I think they want at that hearing to have this dropped by the DA, and then he'll play in the Georgia game. That's my current kind of take on it, where it just seems like that's what they're aiming for. And like I looked up his attorney. It's a former attorney for the Bosch law firm. The Bosch law firm has worked. It's a pretty prominent law firm in Knoxville. They work with UT a lot. And it looks like she doesn't work there anymore. And she was a public defender before. But regardless, I'm sure that's how they kind of got that connection, was the Bosch firm's connection to UT in the past. I think they're going to push to get this thing dismissed on November 1st and then actually get over the legal hurdle, as Hypo kind of says there. That's just what it feels like to me. We do have comments here. David Jones says, Tennessee is a stand your ground state. The only thing that greenlights violent force is the commission of a crime. So in that case, again, non-attorney, does McCollough have a legit case to be like, hey, you broke into my apartment and I was just defending my property, And does he have that case there? I wonder if that's what they're aiming for, and that's why they think on that November 1st date, if they can get it, they can maybe get this dropped.
But how likely do you think it is that they drop these charges? Because, and again, I'm in the same boat as you, obviously not an attorney, or we wouldn't be sitting here talking right now. If they brought the charges against him, that means that they had to have initially believed the other person's story, I assume. And then McCollough's presented his side. Tennessee has looked at his side, and him as a student, they've said, we don't think you did anything wrong. But at the same time, the police or whoever, pressed the charges against McCollough, they had to have believed the other side of the story to have pressed charges, right? Why would you put a felony charge on him if you didn't think that he was in the wrong or possibly in the wrong there? And if that's the case, do they just dismiss it, or does it actually have to go to a trial? Is there a longer legal process that still would have to play out? That would be my big question right now.
It's a good question, and that's where you honestly, this thing's up in the air, where I think what we sort of thought about in terms of doing this live stream, we saw it seemed like a lot of people were like, finally, he's going to play. Oh my God. I'm not sure that's the case. In fact, if I was a betting man, I'm going to say he's not going to play this week. Tennessee sorely needs him. But just listening to what Hypo says, and again, even if he was going to play this week, Hypo's not going to say he's going to play this week. So take that with a grain of salt.
I mean, it's still possible that you could get a Pete Thamel report at 3:00 on Saturday that says he's been cleared to play. Yeah. I mean, that's very possible that could happen. But based on what the evidence that we have as far as what's happening, the timeline, the potential timeline for this stuff to happen, and what Hypo said today, I would say, I feel like 80% chance he doesn't play, and I would be surprised if he did play.
It really feels like he won't. But let's see. Pursuit of Strength says, what would be the risk of playing somebody with a pending charge? Well, you risk that it doesn't get dropped, goes to trial, and you have someone in the middle of a fairly serious legal proceeding playing on your team.
And it's a little different than the Jermaine Burton situation, whereas Jermaine Burton has never been charged with anything. Now, you can say that, obviously the way Saban has handled that has not been ideal at all. I think most non-Alabama fans would agree, and I think some Alabama fans would even agree. But there's stuff with Jaylen McCollough that's out of Tennessee's hands. That's not the case with Jermaine Burton in Alabama.
That situation is very different, and in no way to let Saban off the hook at all. That whole situation was absolutely ridiculous because that whole thing was caught on tape. I think it would have been pertinent for that girl to potentially press charges against him. I mean, it was a completely unprovoked assault on her. I mean, it's just a completely different situation altogether. I mean, we gave our 2 cents on that on the show this week on Monday. I'm pretty ill about that. Because, I mean, it just is classic Saban BS, and screw that guy. But regardless, on the McCollough situation, that's just our feeling. We just kind of feel like this reads like he's not playing this week.
Let's answer this real quick. Is this a perception issue or an NCAA issue? I think it's more of a perception issue. I don't think the NCAA has a rule about this. I think it's up to the school, and they're the ones that have to administer discipline. And I think Tennessee is just more worried about the perception of it, which I understand. I mean, that is a pretty big deal, and you don't want to be in the wrong on that. And it is a very bad look if this happens and let's say he turns out that he's guilty. Doesn't look like he is, obviously. If you trust the report from Trey, seems like he was thought the kid was breaking in or needed to defend himself, whatever. But on the off chance that he ends up being guilty, and then you've had all this information and you play him anyway, and then you got to remove him from the team, it's just a terrible look. And you've already seen how the national media treats Tennessee. And right now, the Vols have some good vibes going. National media is kind of coming around on them, building them up a little bit. The last thing you want to do is spoil that goodwill that you kind of have right now because of this situation. It's about more than just McCollough playing against Kentucky or Alabama or any of this. It's more about the health of the program and what's best for the program, what looks best, whether you agree with that or not. That's just how it is.
Yeah, it's complicated. That's really the bottom line, because it's pretty clear that Tennessee is pushing for, not necessarily that McCollough is innocent. I think it's pretty apparent that he did punch this kid and stuff like that.
But I think they're trying to use the evidence or what they've gathered to show that it was
self-defense.
Yes.
That it was someone who was breaking into his apartment and threatening him and the people that were inside. And it is fairly clear to me that Tennessee is taking a stand on that they are saying our guy was defending himself, defending his property, and that is where this stemmed from. And looking at the evidence, I would say I tend to agree with that, even though I was not there. Let's see. David says McCollough left the scene and had to be called back to the scene. He was arrested because the guy had already given his report bloodied and playing innocent of guilt. Jaylen will win the case, according to.
But again, that goes back into the whole thing of, does it just get dropped by the DA?
Yeah.
Or does it have to go through the entire process, which could be very lengthy at that point, and then you're talking like rest of the season possibly without McCollough. That's where there's that's the concern, I think.
Yes, I agree, and I think it's still too up in the air for Tennessee to go at this point. Well, the independent review board is enough. He's going to play on Saturday. I just don't think that's enough. And just from the sound of Hypo, this is again pulling from what Hypo is saying, and you got to take it with a grain of salt the way he says everything. I think it's basically Hypo being like, I would play this kid tomorrow, but I can't because of the way it looks, and he's not happy about it. I think that's exactly how Hypo feels. Again, projecting on my part. I don't know that for certain, but just from his statements, it just feels like he's like, yeah, we want this kid on the field and we can't because he's wrapped up in these legal proceedings. We want to get that taken care of. And so
it seems like Tennessee has his back, though, by the fact that they've been clear that they haven't suspended him. They're not trying to hide that they've let him be around the team. So as much as they possibly can publicly without straight up saying he's innocent, we don't know why he's going through all this, because that's not a good look for your head coach to be saying that either. Otherwise, it seems like they really do have his back, which is good to see. I mean, you want a coach that stands up for his players when they're in the right. And Hypo has dealt with some situations where players weren't necessarily in the right. He's had to dismiss players from the team. I mean, we saw it not long after he got here with Caden Salter. So he has a history of handling things the right way, which gives me more confidence that eventually McCollough will be cleared. It's just a matter of when.
I agree with Jonathan here in the comments. Said at the end of the day, Tank didn't put himself into a position to cause trouble. It came to him. He'll beat the rap. That's what I think.
That's a good point.
Even if it does, God forbid, actually go to a trial or something like that, I think this ultimately ends with him being fine. But that's just kind of our 2 cents on that.
It is a tough spot to be in because, okay, McCollough is eventually declared innocent, cleared, able to keep playing games. Well, then you've taken the Alabama game from him. You've taken the UT Martin game from him. And I don't care if it's just UT Martin. I've said before in this podcast, every time you get a chance to step on the field, play a college football game, you only get 12 of the Saturdays a year to do that. And he's had 2 of those chances taken from him. One of them in the most memorable game of in Tennessee history, that Alabama game, and he didn't get to play in it. And you know what's right about that too? You know, that's a injustice being done to him if it comes out that he's cleared and cleared of any wrongdoing. Well, then you've taken something from him that he can never get back, and that you hate to see that, but you also understand why the schools have to be on the safe side too, because you don't want to put the whole program in any type of danger. Is there a better way to handle that? I don't know.
I mean, the entire thing just sucks from top to bottom. I think that's That's really the bottom line. Like it didn't have to happen. It all started with this kid drunk walking into their, if even that much is true, walking into their apartment and kind of beginning the entire thing. It just, I genuinely feel terrible for McCollough, even if you can make the case that he shouldn't have lashed out as much as he did. If he should have just shoved the kid out of the apartment and shut the door rather than punching him and knocking his teeth out. Even if you want to argue that, this came to him at the end of the day. He did not ask for this. And that's where I'm ill about it, no matter what ends up happening. So it's, I mean, you missed the greatest Tennessee football game in however long, 20 some odd years. That's tough.
The only upside to this for Tennessee is that it's got some players on the field to get some experience that maybe probably would not have played otherwise, but you still hate to see it come at McCollough's expense. And you also wonder, when you argue about what McCollough should or shouldn't done, what other factors are in here that we don't know about? Is there previous history? Does he know this person from other things that have happened in the past? And there's a lot more that goes into it, even beyond this report that we got from Trey, which is very in depth and gives us sheds a lot of light on the situation that we didn't know before his report. There's still a lot of unknowns there.
There definitely are. I mean, was there anything else with this? I did also want to talk about, just to include it here, Tillman and kind of the updates on that we've seen. But was there anything else with this that you wanted to cover, Zach?
No, that's pretty much it on McCollough. I mean, just, if you're just jumping in here, the fact that Hypo has said there's been no change in his status, we interpret all this to believe that the legal process has to play out and the charges have to be dropped before Jaylen McCollough is going to be back playing in a game for Tennessee. He's not suspended, still around the team, but at least the way we take it, these charges got to be dropped before we see him play again.
Yeah, I think, and we could be wrong. He might play on Saturday. I don't know if they feel that good about it. Cool.
Hope so.
Hope
awesome. So.
Yeah. I want to see him back, and Lord knows they need him. So there is that. But then Hypo was also asked about Cedric Tillman at that press conference, and his response was literally, just like the McCollough situation, we'll see. We'll evaluate practice for the rest of the week, and then on game day also. I mean, it makes you roll your eyes. You just go like, dude, come on, man. Give us something. But he just won't do it. But from everything that I could discern from looking at, 247, VolQuest, News Sentinel, everybody that's kind of talked about it, it seems like he's going to play, but probably in a limited capacity in this game, which I think is honestly perfect. You have Ramel Keaton playing great ball, and he's emerged as an incredibly reliable piece. And so you can just inch Tillman back in. I mean, go as slow as you need to, because I think you're playing winning football without him. So I don't know. I think that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, you really want him for that Georgia game more than anything, but you still need him for Kentucky. Kentucky has a good defense, and you would like to see him out there, but you don't want to see him suffer a setback either. So if he's 100%, you can ease him back in against Kentucky. You don't want to overdo it. Who knows if it's conditioning, because unlike McCollough, he did miss practice for a little bit because he was rehabbing the injury. So he hasn't been practicing this whole time he's been out. So he's kind of trying to get back into the rhythm of everything. And with this up-tempo offense, conditioning is obviously of the utmost importance. So is he in game shape? I mean, that might sound weird to say about a college athlete, but he hasn't played since September 17th, I guess, was the Akron game.
Yep.
So over a month since he's played in this offense. So I don't know if you just want to put him back out there, play every snap of the game this fast. So even if he is healthy, like you said, probably limited if he plays against Kentucky.
Yeah, I think so. Just, again, my personal theory, like the McCollough situation. McCollough, I don't think will play. Tillman, I do think we'll see, but in a limited sense. And otherwise, there hasn't been updates on like Haddon, Charles, Christian Charles, kind of some of those other guys. I think people are just assuming they're gonna be back. Haddon was a ham tweak, and
UT Martin is UT Martin, and you kind of use that game as a chance to get some guys healthy. If that game was against Kentucky, I'm guessing some of those guys are probably on the field, but it was a chance to get guys healthy, and that was the smart thing to do.
I did think that it was funny, just this whole week listening to Kentucky. I've tried to listen to like what Kentucky fans are saying because they're my favorite media. Just Kentucky, because I think in terms of what that program has accomplished, they get the shine off of basketball. They had the attitude of one of the most accomplished basketball programs of all time, and they apply it to football as if their football program has ever done literally anything. So I love listening to their media in the week leading up to this. And they're convinced of a few things. They think that they're very ready for the sound in Neyland. And we talked about that on Monday, but they also, the fact that they're coming off of a bye week, they're really feeling like that's it. And that's the X factor. We're healthy. We're coming off a bye week. Tennessee's coming off a bye week too. So don't more or less. Hendon Hooker played for what, a quarter and a half, maybe 1.75 quarters essentially, and none of the starters played in the second half. I mean, Tennessee basically played a bye week too, so don't get too haughty over there. That has been funny.
With the Kentucky game, since it's 2 days and the defensive coordinator spoke yesterday, we have a pretty clear look or idea of what Kentucky's game plan is going to be. We've known all week that they want to slow it down on offense. They've been pretty clear about that. Will Levis made some comments this week about sustained drives. What I think is interesting is the defensive approach they're probably going to take. Brad White, their defensive coordinator, talked a lot about one-on-one matchups, how his guys are going to have to win one-on-one matchups. He also talked about needing to affect the quarterback. He said, if we can't get to the quarterback and he's got a clean pocket, there's not a secondary in the country that's going to be able to hold up against that passing attack. So it kind of tells me he's going to let his guys be out there on an island, try to defend one-on-one, and they're going to sell out to try to get to Hooker, affect the quarterback, and not let those routes develop down the field. That's their strategy. I mean, if it works, it could be brilliant. I mean, if you can get to Hooker, that is the one way to beat Tennessee. If you can get pressure, Tennessee's offensive line has been playing so well this year. I mean, they shut Will Anderson down. He's going to be a top 5 draft pick, and they shut him down.
I would be more concerned about that if the offensive line had not been playing like a stone wall in recent weeks. I mean, they killed Alabama. Tennessee is winning in the trenches on both sides of the ball here, and it's been so impressive, especially from that offensive line. Like, they have just been so good. The reality is, if the offensive line plays the way that they've been playing in recent weeks, I mean, the reality is with this offense, the only way you beat them, and I think the only team that Tennessee plays that could, where, without having seen the game already, I think the only team that could do this is Georgia. You rush 3 and get home.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only way that you can genuinely stop them. You get to Hendon Hooker with 3 dudes and you can drop everybody else back to cover. Because otherwise, you are at a numbers disadvantage on every play always. And so, I mean, good luck. I don't think Kentucky can do it.
Good luck to both teams, because they're both in the very bottom of the NCAA in sacks, which is shocking when you think about Kentucky and Georgia is supposed to be 2 of the better defenses in the SEC. And they are. I mean, Kentucky's holding 11 straight games where teams haven't scored more than 24 points against them. Like, their defense has been playing well, but they haven't been getting to the quarterback and finishing those hits at the pace that you would expect. And if they try that and they don't get to Hooker and they leave their guys out there in man coverage, it will be a blowout. Tennessee will put up an absurd amount of points on Kentucky if they go with that strategy and they don't get to him. And it's interesting that they want to do that and not go with drop defenders in the coverage and hope you get home to him. I mean, maybe they feel like they still think Tennessee's going to beat you. And that's true, because Alabama started dropping more guys in the coverage in the second half of that game, and Hooker still beat them. And that's what led to Nick Saban's frustration after the game, where he liked the adjustments and Tennessee just still beat them. I don't know. This isn't a great matchup for Kentucky. Obviously, you got to go out there and execute and play your game and do what you're supposed to do and handle business. But just on paper and schematically, this is a game that could get out of hand for Kentucky as long as the Tennessee's offensive line holds up.
I haven't heard a single person with any amount of objectivity give me a compelling reason why Kentucky would be able to pull this off. I mean, I've said it. If this was in Lexington, maybe, because I feel like in that scenario, Tennessee is more susceptible to mistakes. But with Neyland Stadium behind him, and especially Neyland Stadium right now, where people are just clamoring to get tickets
at night.
Oh my God. And everybody's going to be liquored up. And dude, it's going to be so wild. Black uniform and the black uniforms. We haven't talked since they released those. Dude, they're so sick.
The helmets.
So sick, dude. Those, I loved those black uniforms from last year. I have grown out of really liking the gray uniforms. I liked them initially a lot. But then when they did them this year against LSU, I was just like, I feel like time hasn't been so kind to those uniforms. But these black ones, dude, they're so clean.
You know what my favorite part of these black uniforms is? Answer this real quick before I get to my favorite part of the uniform thing. Asked, is Tillman playing? We are not sure. Josh Hypo will not commit to whether or not he will play. We think that he might play and be limited is our best guess. We don't think he'll be out there for every snap type deal.
Yeah.
But back to the uniforms. I don't know if you remember this, that Danny White somewhere had mentioned that they wanted to save or against traditional rivalries and big games, they wanted to wear orange and white.
Yeah.
And the message that this sends that you're wearing these black uniforms at home against Kentucky. And Kentucky has talked about this being a rivalry all week. And it is. I mean, it's a border rivalry, but it feels like a little shade there from Tennessee and Danny White to Kentucky.
Yeah, that's such great subtle shade. Just go like, well, we wear the traditional uniforms against our biggest rivals, so we're going to wear black against Kentucky. So good, dude.
Danny White's the best. I mean, he is the best AD I've ever seen. Just because, like, when if you haven't watched the podcast with Ron Slay, the interview we did with him on Wednesday, go check that out on the A to Z Sports YouTube channel. But Ron Slay talked about Danny White and just what he's meant as an athletic director, why he likes him, and then had some really good points that he brought up. But just the way that he listens to fans, and he's very self-aware, and he has a good read on what makes sense and what doesn't. Because look, I've seen Danny White's mentions, and some of y'all are suggesting some off-the-wall stuff to that man that he's probably shaking his head at. But the stuff that makes sense, he implements, and he listens to fans, and that's the first time Tennessee's had that in a long time.
It really is. Oh, looks like Top Troop is talking Titans over here. I am a Titans fan. So Tannehill also, he's a game time decision, I think, for the Titans this week. So some more compelling injury news if you're a Titans fan. I know the A to Z boys in the morning show, I think they were hitting on that this morning. So if you want to know about that, about Tannehill and the whole status of that thing, this morning's A to Z show, they talked about it.
Let's put this up here real quick. They asked about the barrel. Josh Hypo yesterday on the SEC coaches teleconference was asked about the barrel, and he says he does not know where it's at, doesn't know if it's in Knoxville, has no clue on its whereabouts. So maybe he's being coy. I don't know if that's. I know fans have been asking for that for quite some time.
Yeah, and I think Tennessee has it. I think they were the last one.
Well, I remember Brian Niedermeyer posted that photo.
Yeah. Oh, right.
And that was what, 2018, 2019, somewhere in there. But,
I know. So I grew up good friends with Roger Frazier's kids. And if you don't know, he's the equipment.
He's like a legend among former Vols.
Yeah. I mean, if you know Tennessee football well, you know who Roger Frazier is. He's been around the program for forever. And I wonder if, I bet he knows. He knows the secrets. We need to ask Frazier. Does he know where the beer barrel is? I'm sure he's got it like hidden somewhere.
I was trying to find Hypo's exact quote on what he said about it. He said, I have not seen the barrel. I don't know where it's located. If it's located here in Knoxville, then he just gets into the importance of the game and being border states and how much the game means. So I don't know. Hypo might just be a guy that has just completely oblivious to this being a thing because he hasn't been at Tennessee but less than 2 years, and he's just focused on beating Kentucky.
We said that last week. Like, it seems like Hypo like actually isn't plugged in to all of the traditions and stuff, but it's almost endearing. like he's just like, I am here to coach football and win football games. And that stuff is extra. Like he's just sort of like, yeah, I'll smoke the cigar or whatever, but I don't, it. And I'm fine with that. Keep winning football games.
Well, yeah, ultimately those traditions are much more fun when everybody's, when Tennessee's winning. So
yeah, I
you
mean,
focus on that. Everybody else will handle that stuff.
The beer barrel one in particular is really stupid because I believe, wasn't it a player died in a drunk driving accident, right? And that's when they stopped doing it. It was something along those lines. And then now, I mean, they sell beer in the stadium, and that's some of the biggest sponsors for UT, and we can't have a beer barrel as a trophy. Like, what? Come on, folks.
Yeah, that is.
What are we doing?
I mean, I wouldn't put it past Danny White to walk out there after the game with it or something. After hearing Dixieland Delight against Alabama, I think anything's on the table when it comes to Danny White.
If after the Dixieland Delight thing and this, all of the stuff, if they unearth the barrel, like if this is like a diversion and they walk out with the beer barrel after the game, legend. Oh, we just got hit in the comments. Look at all we got porn bots in the comments over here. Look at this. Wow. The best adult site. Great. Thank you for that.
How do they find these live streams so fast?
I don't know. And they do like 6 comments at once like that. Mm-hmm. Oh, here it is. David says Kentucky players wrecked a truck and a player died. Yeah, that's what I thought it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why the beer barrel went away. Yeah, 2 of their players that got killed. Anywho, just bring it back. That would be completely amazing if they did that. Please, Danny White. You brought back the Vols letters. We beat Alabama and took Dixieland Delight back. Let's get the beer barrel back in circulation here. That's it, Zach. Anything else for updates wise? This was just off the cuff. Got a little time at lunchtime. Why not? But anything else that we haven't covered?
No, I feel pretty good about this Kentucky game. I think, if Tennessee goes out and plays their game and they execute like they have and they stay within themselves, which I think they've done a really good job of doing, thanks to Josh Hypo and just the maturity of this team. I'm so struck by every single player. And it's not like they're robots. These players have their own personality. We see them up there laughing and joking and talking about their teammates. And Cooper Mays talking about how different the offensive line is, and they all have their own unique personalities. Like, this team feels different than when Butch Jones was here, and you just felt like the players seemed like robots at times under Butch. Like, you didn't get a lot of candid responses. It's not that at all. But at the same time, it's a very uniformed message from every player you see speak. And look, those wins are fun, but we're on to the next one. We're here to get to Atlanta. We have a lot of, things left to accomplish in front of us. Like, they're not getting caught up in beating Alabama and being number 3 in the nation. It seems like a team that's been there before. Like, they seem like the way Alabama or Georgia or Clemson or Ohio State, like, they've been there. This isn't new to them. And the way they're handling it has been so impressive to me, and speaks to the culture that's been created, the way the players have bought in, and just how focused and determined they are winning the SEC championship and getting to the playoff.
It is so nice. I love the way that Ron Slay put it, not to just shamelessly plug the stuff we've done this week, but go listen to what Ron Slay said. And if don't leave this channel, go look for it. It's a few videos back. But he said, because this program has done so little high-level winning in the last few years and in the last 15 years, it's almost like how are they even going to have the ability to look forward to Georgia? How would you do that? Because this Kentucky game is a new thing. You've never beaten Kentucky as the number 3 team in America. This is a totally new challenge. It's not like they're just like, oh, well, we're just going to dispose of Kentucky. No, your number 3 ranking and your college football playoff hopes are riding on this, and your whole thing is riding on this week. They're not just going to be like, oh, we're going to trot on to Georgia. This, like, if this was Georgia and they're coming off a national championship, you might be like, maybe a look ahead spot. They got a big game next week, maybe. But with this team that has won so little and now is really in the thick of it, I think that is the way he said it. It's like they don't even have the ability to look forward. How would they even do that? So, bottom line,
whatever it is,
listen to the Ron Slay interview.
Whatever it is, this team is incredibly mature, and I think that Hendon Hooker's probably set the tone with that, being 24 years old, being an older player. And that's something that's going to benefit Tennessee for a long time to come, because you got Taven Jackson that's learning from Hendon Hooker, Joe Milton that's still going to be there next year. Nico's going to come in and he's going to learn from those guys, and everything that they've learned from Hooker, they're going to pass on, and it kind of sets the tone for the entire program. It's just like when a program's known for defense, you go there and you know what you're getting into, you know what the expectation is. Hooker and these guys are kind of setting that tone for Tennessee right now, where this culture, this is going to be what Tennessee football is from here on out. And it starts with these guys. You know, they're setting all this up, and that's just as important as winning the games on Saturdays, it seems, for long-term health of the program, at least.
Yeah, man, I hope it's sustainable. That's kind of an off-season discussion, I guess. But this is interesting before we go, and I hadn't thought about it. Is the beer barrel a Tennessee whiskey barrel? It could also be a Kentucky bourbon barrel. I don't know the history there, but
that's something for you to do this afternoon.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look that up now, because there's definitely a whiskey battle between Tennessee and Kentucky. It's one of the great things between these two states: Tennessee whiskey versus Kentucky bourbon. Plus he said no. Paul said no. To which part? The Kentucky bourbon barrel?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I hope it's a Tennessee whiskey barrel. I don't know. I honestly, I'm not sure. But now I'm going to go look that up right now. So, all right.
No Kentucky bourbon, Paul says.
Yeah. That makes
sense.
But
I know you don't abide by that. I'm sure there's some Kentucky bourbon probably behind you up there somewhere, right?
It's not behind me. The only thing that is behind me, Rattle and Snap Tennessee Whiskey,
there you
our
go.
amazing sponsor for the Game Day show. And if you don't own a bottle of this, maybe we should get a new barrel for the Kentucky Tennessee rivalry and have it be a barrel of Rattle and Snap Tennessee Whiskey. It's perfect.
Perfect plug there.
All right. That is it. I'm Charlie Burris. That is Zach Reagan. Thanks to everybody just coming and hanging out on this kind of impromptu thing. Go Vols. Hopefully we don't have to be talking about anything other than a big old win on Monday. And Monday at 4 p.m. We'll be right back here for the Big Orange podcast. Tune in then or listen to it after the fact. And we'll talk to y'all next week.
See you guys later.